Hello again. We're here to go through some more templates for the third weekend in October quilt. And we're going to be focusing on ones that have a few more pieces than the previous videos. First one we're going to do is the stem side foundation. And this is block KK20 in our, KK. So KK20. And you'll see I wrote all of the information as far as what fabrics are used, and I have it oriented so it matches what's on the chart. See, this is where the labeling of it is, but just disregard that. Make it so it looks like what's on the chart, and that's how you're going to be putting your fabrics on the front side of your template. You're going to cut all your pieces so that they will generously cover all of the areas that you want to cover with fabric, and then you're going to start going in numeric order. So piece number 1 is this stem, and piece number 2 is this side piece. So you're going to lay them on the foundation, right sides together, piece 1, then piece 2 on top. You're going to flip it over and sew on the dashed line. Then go to your iron, press it open, and then you're going to add piece number 3. Piece number 3 is another piece of Aboriginal dot ocean, and you'll lay that right sides. Actually, first, let me go back to this one. You need to trim. So you're going to trim so that you have only a 1/4 inch of fabric in your seam allowance. And you can either use one of these add a 1/4 rulers, or you can use a regular ruler and just make sure you've got only a 1/4 of an inch of fabric in your seam allowance. You don't need all that bulk in there. So after you've done that, then you'll add piece 3, flip it over, sew on the dashed line, turn it over, open it up, and then you'll see you definitely want to trim here. Got a lot of extra fabric. So, well, you're going to get rid of all these extra bits of the ocean Aboriginal dot so that you have a nice clean, just 1/4 inch seam allowance to add your last piece, which is piece number 4. So you'll have cleaned that up, just have a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, right sides together, flip it over, and sew on the dotted line between piece 3 and piece 4. And then you'll go and press that open. And as I've said in previous videos, I highly recommend using the iron, not just finger pressing. It just gives you a nice crisp seam, and I think the end product is nicer. And then you trim around the outside of your template, and it's finished. And if we go back to our chart for KK20, you'll see the template matches what's on the graph. And that's the whole goal with this method of paper piecing, is you want what you see here to look like that with all the fabrics on it. Okay. Then we're going to go to the half stem foundation. And again, this is oriented to match what's in the graph. I'll go over there and show you that. So BB5 is right here. And if you look, the little stem is here with the 2 pieces, and then the big piece is up here. So you write on your template either the names of the fabric or the letters of the fabric to also help you orient how the template should be held, so that you don't need to worry about the numbers are upside down. What you wrote on there gives you the orientation of how to hold that piece and cover it with fabric. So we cut the pieces that are going to fit, and they don't have to be perfect. I mean, this is a triangle here. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to generously cover the area that you are focusing on. Just as a side point, this design wall behind all my templates here is the K flannel design wall, which really is very helpful for quilting in general, but certainly for this project, because you're going to have all of these small template pieces in the end that you'll turn into 9 patches and then sew into rows. So this will just help you keep things straight. So after we have our pieces, we're going to get piece number 1 and piece number 2, and lay the piece number 1. Piece number 2 goes on right sides together, flip it over, sew on the dashed line, and press. And then we will trim the area in between where piece number 1 is and where you're going to add your next piece, piece number 3. And then grab piece number 3, right sides together, put it on your template, flip it over, sew on the dashed line, and press. So even though there are 4 pieces in these blocks, it really is the same process that you had when you only had 2 pieces when you're doing a template. And then the last piece is piece number 4, and you would put that, after you trim your seam allowance, put that on top of pieces 1, 2, and 3, right sides together, flip it over, sew on the dashed line, and press it open. And this is what you will end up with in the end. And if we run back over here to our graph, BB5, you can see this template looks just like what's here, only this has all of our beautiful cave fabrics on it. All right, and the last one we're going to do in this video is a little bit tricky. So you just need to breathe through this one. It is a little different. This one, it says on the template that you're going to join 2 fabrics and add them to the template as treating it as one piece of fabric. So if you look what I've done here, I have pieces number 1, 2, 3, and then piece number 4 is supposed to be glacier and Japanese chrysanthemum, which I have, and I've just sewn them together. And I've cut generous rectangles that I know will absolutely cover that area. And then we start with the same steps we've had, sewing piece 1 to 2, laying them right sides together on the template, flipping it over, sewing on the dashed line, pressing it open, trimming our seam allowance. So we only have 1/4 of an inch in there, then adding piece number 3, which is the actual little stem, right sides together, flip it over, sew on the dashed line. When you have these stems, this is one you need to really pay attention that you are sewing on the right dashed line. So when you're adding piece number 3 to piece number 1 and 2, let's see it a little better on this guy. See how there are 2 dashed lines here? So you want to be sewing on the one, this one here, that's closer to 1 and 2 when you're adding 3. And then when you're adding 3 to 4, this is the dashed line that you use. All right, so now here's the tricky part. This pieced together piece of fabric. First of all, I want to say there are only 5 of these in the entire quilt. So you could space them out and don't do them all at once if you're really overwhelmed by them, but it really isn't that difficult. You're going to take your fabric that you've sewn together, and what you want to do is line it up with your seam that you already have there and lay this on your cut edge so that it looks like that piece is continuing on the other side of the stem. So if you feel uncomfortable, you certainly can throw a pin in there to help keep it in place. And then you're going to, just like it has there, flip it over, right sides together, sew on that dashed line, and then you're going to press it open. And you'll see, so it looks like the stem is kind of laying on top of this yellow leaf and this blue leaf, and you have a nice continuation of your colors. And then you trim on the outside solid line, and you get this beautiful little block, which I think is what makes this quilt really different, is the layering of the leaves and the unusual shapes. All the leaves aren't exactly the same. And I think that's what's really cool about this quilt. Alrighty, that's it. And we'll see you next time.